that the county does participate in, and we are starting to implement. We have a voluntary public survey that is available on the table, and we would appreciate our people that attend our public meetings, their participation in that survey. The Title VI coordinator has made available at this meeting or hearing a voluntary public involvement survey to collect demographic data to monitor and demonstrate St. Joseph County's compliance with its non-discrimination obligations under Title VI and Federal Regulation 23 CFR 200.9B4. And more importantly, ensure that affected communities and interested persons are provided equal access to public involvement. Compliance is voluntary. However, in order to demonstrate compliance with the federal regulation, the information requested must be documented when provided. It will not be used for any other purpose except to show that those who are affected or have an interest in proceedings or the proposed project or meeting have been given an opportunity to provide input throughout this process. So again, the surveys are available. We'd appreciate that you would volunteer to participate in the survey. Basically, that information is then compiled annually, and it is provided to INDOT for our compliance with the Title VI program for non-discrimination. So we thank you for your participation. Moving to items of the agenda, we have minutes from February 12th. The only thing I would note is there's a we've got a scrivener's error that that we could correct. John McNamara's name in the first is misspelled.
Okay.
I think down below it's correct. It's but up at top in the present.
I see it.
So, are there any comments, questions by the commission?
Motion to approve is corrected.
Okay, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Moving into our economic development area updates, we have our General Redevelopment Commission professional service proposal. Mr. Shalia.
Yeah, so in the packet today is a request to hire 2 appraisers in the process to survey what we will call proposed Lot 8 of the Central Garage site. Central Highway Garage, currently located at the area between Lathrop and Old Cleveland Road out by the airport, just northeast of the airport. The Redevelopment Commission is working to create a series of developable lots. And these lots would be developable within the city limits of South Bend, but they open up some acreage that heretofore was not available in this area. Lot 8 specifically is of interest to an adjacent property owner. The adjacent property owner is a truck terminal that made a major expansion and improvement to the site. That site sits at the corner of Boland and Foundation Drive. That property owner would like to expand to the west and basically double the site area. So the Lot 8 is delineated on the maps in your packet show the area that they would like to expand to. There's 2 proposals. There's one from Steve Santee with Appraisal Services Incorporated for $1,500. And there's another appraisal proposal from Iverson Grove in the amount of $1,800. We have worked hard to find appraisers that are available and are capable and qualified to do this work. So these would be 2 independent appraisals for ultimate disposition of these properties, or for this property. We would look then to also consider a future appraisal for lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is south of Boland Drive extended. But we're in the process right now of doing a topographic survey for the area to really understand what of those lots is developable. And so right now we just like to move ahead with Lot 8. The funding for these 2 proposals would come from the general redevelopment budget we have. It's the money that we get from the SF Motors lease for the property that they lease from the Redevelopment Commission. Any land sales that are done, we would anticipate that that money would go back in to cover the cost that we've spent on this project. So there would at some point in time be funds that would come back into this budget to cover these costs and some of the survey work and stuff that the commission is expecting. But I would ask for your approval of these requests.
So moved. I'll second.
Mr. Woods, for both of these, are we able to motion on both contracts?
You can do them all at the same time.
Okay.
Motion to approve both agreements.
So we have a motion for both agreements and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Moving on to the New Carlisle Economic Development Area update.
So the New Carlisle Economic Development Area, point one is just the Indiana Enterprise Center general update. We don't have a general update. Our working group did not meet last month, so we don't have a monthly report to include in your packets. There are many activities going on, and we're doing a tremendous amount of property research and property discovery, trying to determine how best to move forward with some of the projects out in that area. What I'd like to do, though, is highlight 2 and 3 below. The EDA grant is something that we've talked about for several meetings now. We applied to the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, which is a sub-agency of the Department of Commerce, for a grant to build 24 miles of fiber optic conduit and pull wire through 27 miles of conduit. We previously built 3 miles when we did the Walnut and US 20 improvements a couple years ago. So the goal would be to build a dark fiber ring out in the western part of St. Joe County. We believe that we should get word at some point this week on success or next steps with that grant. So I just want to let you know that that's still in the hopper and still moving forward. Point 3 is a grant that we're working on right now, and we're still in the, I'd say, the early stages, but it's due on the 21st. So I'm gonna let Chris give a little update on the automated driving systems grant.
Yeah, so the automated driving systems grant was proposed by the U.S. Department of Transportation in late January, just when the shutdown ended. It was a funding opportunity for $60 million over the entire nation. That's separated out to kind of $15 million per state, depending on how many projects were submitted. It's $10 million per project. So we're working with Navistar Proving Grounds, University of Notre Dame, and Food Mobility, which is a company out of Columbus, Indiana, that specializes in kind of smart mobility testing. We've also been in touch with the IEDC and INDOT to ensure that they're fully on board in supporting our grant proposal. The project itself is for testing commercial fleet vehicles from an autonomous point of view. The U.S. Department of Transportation wants to see a level 3, which is a conditional type of autonomous. So essentially there'd still be a driver, but the truck or vehicle would be able to control speed, control distance, but if it ran into something, it would then signal the driver to take over, depending on what that situation was. So essentially, we're looking at it from a kind of a changing condition type of mentality, where if you have intermittently stopped vehicles, such as emergency first responders or school buses, given some of the stories that have happened recently with school buses, we're looking at it from a safety point of view. And then also looking at it from a vehicle to object type of research, where you look at railroad crossings, you look at highway work zones, where these vehicles, especially trucks, because they're so much larger, would have to have some advanced knowledge of these things so that they can alert the driver, we need you to take over, move lanes, slow down, et cetera, et cetera. So this is kind of looking at basic information to provide the U.S. Department of Transportation as they develop policymaking and moving forward in this kind of scary field. So the grant's due March 21st. Expected announcement for the funding is sometime in spring of 2019, what we've been told. So kind of where we're at right now.
2020.
No, it's
Spring
2019.
2019.
Okay.
Soon.
What's the
Short
turnaround?
seals
I
are
like
right.
it. We're in spring. So.
Yeah, late spring.
How much are we asking for in the grant?
Right now, we've only seen some preliminary budgets, but Navistar has put forth about $6 million, and then we're still kind of compiling what that's going to be. So I'm assuming it will be close to that $10 million cap limit, would be my guess.
Close to 10.
One of the opportunities with this grant is any expenses we might have to extend water and sewer or other utilities to the Navistar site to help improve their site, to allow for this testing to be done on their site, could be considered reimbursable expenses. So as we would look at this grant, that would be an opportunity for us to reduce our exposure or other agencies' exposure for extending utility.
just want to back up a second, forgive me, so the minutes can reflect also that Mr. Beeler is in attendance as a number member, but we're keeping it together in the table liability too, and I'm sorry for that.
I recognize Mr. Beal.
Thank you. So, please continue.
Yes, item number 4 on the agenda is the addendum to interlocal agreement for provision of funds for the fire protection equipment. This is, in our last meeting, we had a discussion about a change order that was necessary to cover the cost for the fire truck that we have entered into an agreement to purchase for the town of New Carlisle, Olive Township Fire Department. The change orders, as we reviewed them with the town reduced their costs in the project, but there were still change orders that still needed to be added in. Chief Swizer is here with from the town's fire department. If there's any specific questions for him, again, I think as I felt I was directed at the last meeting to go talk to the town, see if we can cover the cost. The town is in the midst of a creation of a fire territory. That's created a lot of strain on the budget as they've been doing a lot of work trying to put together budgets for that work. That work benefits the larger effort that we're looking for in industrial development and development out in the western part of the county. They're really tied together, but they're just, from the town's perspective, there just isn't budget funds available at this point in time to cover that gap. So I would ask for your approval again. I would refer to Chief Swizer if there's any specific comments about the truck that the fire chief could answer to help with that.
Any questions?
How much have you cut out of the original?
In the email I sent to Mr. Shelley, we dropped roughly $10,000 to $15,000 out of the truck, out of some things that were more specifically the general public. You look at the truck and it's all shiny, so we cut back on some of that of the truck to try to get some of these safety and corrosion things put back in the truck. Unfortunately, those things that we cut off versus the safety features. The difference.
And the difference is 17,000?
Yes.
$49.
Chief Schweizer, are there some other improvements, and this may not be a question for you, more so the town, that the town is having to fund safety-related aspects of it as well, that's in addition to just the truck? I thought I saw some comment about a $10,000 to $12,000.
Well, and Josh, you could
So
talk
those
to
were some
this,
additional, those are equipment that we're needing for the truck.
That's outside of our
That's
interlocal
outside,
agreement that the town is budgeting or
Yeah,
providing.
and that's coming directly. So, in the event that this goes, no, all this comes out of the fire department's operation. Fire department's operation is roughly $300,000. So, we're having to add those additional costs in equipment to go on that truck. Our previous ladder truck went out of service roughly 3 years ago. And some of that equipment, the hose, all that stuff, we test over the years and it goes out of service. Some of that stuff has to be new. And just in hose, 1,000 feet, it's $647 per 100 feet. So it's not cheap. And so we're having to provide that. Some of those costs weren't calculated. We really work hard to try to repurpose stuff and put them back on the equipment as it goes out of service.
Were those new costs or were those costs that would always, if you didn't have the fire truck, you would still have those costs?
No, if we didn't have the fire truck, we wouldn't have it.
You wouldn't have those
Yes,
costs,
sir.
okay.
So we wouldn't have the available equipment.
So how much does that add?
It's another $12,000 to $17,000 just depending.
I would point out too, the town has bought several pieces of other equipment over the last couple of years.
Yes, we part of this, just to back it up, we bought a truck in roughly 2016, and we've had it in service during those times. And after we settled, we came to redevelopment, maybe the county commissioners, we started seeing some maintenance issues, corrosion issues. So after it was approved, we went, oh, we really need to fix these problems. We don't have any of those problems going forward. So we bought that truck, we bought a new ambulance, and we just approved the purchase of another pumper tank.
we are really investing in our fleet and our manpower. Entire territory. So yeah, we're really.
Sounds like you've been very cost conscious as well. I move approval of the difference.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none. Next item of business is the discussion about plan amendment for the New Carlisle Economic Development Area.
Certainly. So, and there's no good way to do this, so I'll try to do it this way. So back in 2015, early 2016, the Redevelopment Commission started a process to re-examine all of its development areas. We went through, we re-examined the budgets, we re-examined the actual properties that were in the development areas. Specifically in the New Carlisle Economic Development Area, we actually formulated the area. We split it into two different TIF districts within the Economic Development Area. In fact, we even changed the name of the area from SDC Economic Development District Number 2 to New Carlisle. So we did a lot of thought as we looked at this area. One of the things, though, we did was we added, I think at that point in time, 19 properties to the acquisition list. Those are the properties outlined in red on this map. Those properties were properties identified for either the rail spur project or the Nestor County ditch realignment project. At this time, the way the process works is, as we've been doing some appraisals of properties, and we're going to talk about a couple more properties yet today, before the commission can buy properties, those properties need to be on the acquisition list. So what I'm asking today is for your approval to begin the process, to do the discovery, to start a process, to amend the plan, to add properties to the acquisition list, and perhaps even in limited cases, adding area to the development area to either square up boundaries or to add some properties that presently are outside the development area footprint. So this is just a request to begin that process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It will happen with a lot of public involvement and discussion. We've talked to several of the property owners that would like to be added to the acquisition list, but this is the formal process that we need to do to start that. So I'll just ask for your approval to begin that process.
And as a reminder, the public process that is associated with that, it comes before the Redevelopment Commission, the Area Planning Commission, and the County Council for action and consideration to do a adjustment of any area within a development area and or the acquisition. Questions or discussions from commission members?
Move to accept the request.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. We have professional service proposals for consideration. The first one is the TAI Ginsberg and Associates.
So I'm going to pass those out. This is in your packet today is a proposal from TAI Ginsberg and Associates. It's for professional services related to some lobbying, consulting work as it relates to grants and technical work at the federal level, and provides other related services, legislative coordination, and the like. We've been using Matt Ginsberg with TAI Ginsberg for the last 6 to 9 months. They were originally brought on through our project team through the Antero Group, one of our Project One Marine team members. We found incredible value with this group. Their work with us on this grant, the build grant that the EDA grant, the ADS grant, the build grant. These grants are setting us up as well as positioning us for future grant work that we're looking to apply for. The reason that I circulated a different proposal to you is because Section 5, which is the fees section, in the packet proposal, it was just there weren't hourly rates or specific language put in as far as how they would bill. This amended language is specific to how they will bill us as we move forward. So Larry, you sitting over there, right? So, but no, I would highly recommend that we do this contract. We are going to see some tremendous value from this relationship. I think we're going to see some of that very soon. but would ask for your approval of this contract.
And basically, my understanding is this contract is similar to in the public works side we use as needed consultant contracts. So this is being able to engage this consultant services on an as needed basis when we've identified a grant opportunity or a funding opportunity that we would like to utilize their services to assist. Then that's when we would engage them, and the contract is set up as such that then they go on an hourly rate based on work actually performed. They don't receive, we don't receive an invoice unless they actually perform services. So it's kind of a blanket, open-ended contract to be used as necessary.
And just maybe as a little additional information, one of the benefits of this group, they've done and have been involved at the DC level for years with transportation companies, transportation projects. They do a lot of work with DOT and Department of Commerce. So they're right in the wheelhouse of the types of needs we need to work with.
So just 60,000 is that a maximum?
It is, yeah, it's not to exceed.
But it's a lump sum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fine.
Oh,
it's not a lump sum.
it needs to be not to exceed. We
Not
can,
to-
we
okay.
can, if you would amend it that way in your
Yes.
motion, we will make sure that the board commissioners.
I was just gonna ask the same thing.
It is a not.
I think that's holdover language from, if you look in your packet, it's probably holdover language from all of it. No, it's supposed to be not to exceed.
And it expires at the end of,
January 31st of
Okay.
next year. Just because that's when their existing contract ended, or right about that time that it ended this year. So I guess February.
So it's a motion to approve with the new language not to exceed $60,000.
second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Can I do wanna, I'm sorry,
No, please.
I did wanna ask a question. They are looking for grants for us, is that the
Yes.
bottom line on this?
At the end of the day, yes.
Yeah, okay, they're looking for the grants.
And then helping us figure out how to navigate the grant. They are part of a very active part of our ATS grant.
And
Got it.
already put forth towards the two senators and Congresswoman Dolores, so they've been very active, making sure they know we're applying for this.
Okay, I just wanna get the short answer here.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none. Contract approved. Next item will be the appraisal service.
Yeah, so in your packet, there's kind of a pre-memo, if you will. It's called Overview of Appraisal Services Project 2. Back in the January meeting, that's when we did appraisal services number 1. We looked at appraising 6 properties for potential future acquisition. 3 of those were related specifically to a potential relocation of a ditch and the retention development area. 2 of those properties back in January related to potential purchase of property closer to the town of New Carlisle as it related to a potential train station location. And then the 5th was, or 6th was kind of a tie-over property owner that was on the first group, also had property, I believe, at the corner of Larison or Strawberry. The map there shows numbers 1 through 6. This request is for the next set of appraisals, if you will. We have 2 different assignments, appraisal assignments. The first is an appraisal of a single-family house that's presently for sale at 30233 Edison Road. That's listed on the map as parcel 7. And then, Stephen, the map you have to your right, the colored map, it's right, it's right at the far right edge of the page. And then assignment number 3 is actually 3 properties within on the campus map, properties that we've had conversations with INTech, INCODE about acquiring as they look to kind of right-size their campus as well as provide development opportunities to be a benefit to their work in the area. So what I'm asking for today is approval to begin an appraisal process on those properties. In your packet today are 2 sets of appraisals. Again, if we were seeking to acquire those properties, we would need 2 independent appraisals. So assignment number 1 related to the single-family house that's for sale at 30233 Edison Road. There's a proposal from Steve Santee with Appraisal Services Inc. in the amount of $750. And then a proposal from Iverson Grove in the amount of $750. So I'd ask for your approval of those. The next 2 assignments are related to the Antec and Coat site. Those in the packet are, again, from Steve Santee in the amount of $2,000 to study the 148 acres around Antec and Coat. And then from Iverson Grove in the amount of $1,500 for the same set of studies. To be clear, none of these properties are presently on the acquisition list. We're trying to determine if there's value to add them to the acquisition list. The single-family house is of interest specifically because the Board of Commissioners actually owns the property to the west of the house. This property sits on a direct alignment with Snowberry Road. So if there was a point in time Snowberry Road was ever extended, we need to go right through the center of the house. And so because the house is for sale and because it seems like a reasonable time as a willing seller, willing buyer, potential relationship, we'd like to get the house appraised so that we can determine if there's value in proceeding to acquire that. If there's any questions about the appraisal, the information we have to answer.
Same person, low bidder, all three.
There's 2 sets.
Two, I
So
mean, two, yeah.
Steve Santee with Appraisal Services, Iverson Grove for both sets. So these would be the 3 appraisers. We used 3 appraisers in the last set. We're still waiting on work product from 2 of the appraisers on that project. So we're expanding the pool of appraisers. And right now, with the economy as good as it is, it's just hard to find appraisers at this point.
Oh, there it is.
So the bid was $750 on the property at Edison Road, 30233.
Yes. Yeah. So.
And there's one back here that says 700.
Okay, oh, wait, oh, you know what, maybe just, okay, so for Steve Santee, Appraisal Services is 700, 750, you're right, 700.
Okay.
That wasn't too far, they all look the same.
Okay.
So yeah, 750, 700, and then the other one is 2,000, and then the other one is 1,500.
Yeah, right.
Very comparable in price of that.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, so approved. Excuse me. Moving into economic development updates for Capitol Avenue, Wyatt, and Northwest Loop.
At this point in time, we have no updates other than specifically in the Wyatt. At the last meeting, we talked about the potential to do a financial partnership with the drainage board for some improvements on the Burford Ditch. The Burford Ditch project is being privately funded, I believe, in total. So there is no need for TIF funds to be used to partner on that project. So that's a win for the drainage board, and so we don't have a need at that point in time.
We're going to do additional business, Dixie Highway.
So I continue to put Dixie Highway as economic development there on there, just with the glimmer of hope that maybe someday something will happen with that. We have, about a year ago, we engaged Gavin Marsh Consulting to do some work for us, not only on infrastructure design, but also some very high-level 50,000 foot planning in that corridor. Chris and I met with their planning consultant last week. They're going to begin doing some of that high-level work for us, just so we can get some broader overview. We're still having conversations with the state about a potential transfer of that corridor, but we're working through the numbers and the details of that, and so we're still having conversations about that. But other than those 2 updates, there's no official updates on that project.
Moving into public comment. And if you wish to speak, please state your name and your address and for the record. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Chris Cobb. I live at 215 East Brookhaven Street in South Bend. And I'm here with some other visitors today. We are members of the Open Space and Agricultural Alliance of St. Joseph County, and we're here this morning to share with the Redevelopment Commission some concerns that we have around the New Carlisle development area and the plans that are being put in place there. We're here on behalf of the 1,000+ people who have signed our petition expressing concern about the IEC development. And so we're going to be raising with the Redevelopment Commission this morning concerns that address 5 different aspects of the project. First and foremost, the lack of public involvement and transparency in a project of this scale, which continues to be regularly shifted in its targets. Although it's been said that there will be area plan commission and redevelopment commission hearings, this is planning on a scale that ought to be subject to expanded public hearings that give citizens broad opportunity to participate. We are also concerned about the way in which this planning threatens essential and irreplaceable resources, our agricultural land and the water of the aquifer. We're also concerned about whether this project actually benefits the county financially. What are the implications of having all this development proposed to take place within the TIF, with many tax abatements being given away? What are the prospects that the jobs that are casually forecast about this project will actually materialize? And finally, we're concerned about this as not being a sensible long-range plan. Times are changing. Our awareness of what kind of development is good for the long term for a community, it's good for our environment, for the long term in the world, changing to understand better that heavily fossil fuel-driven industrial development has no long-term future. The city of South Bend is pivoting towards sustainable development. The Common Council is considering bringing forward a climate change ordinance for the city. We believe that the county of St. Joseph should be on the same page with the city of South Bend in these matters, and that what is being proposed for the IEC in no way corresponds to that kind of vision of sustainable future. So I thank you for your time this morning and for your availability to the public. I will end my comments there and give others who are here with me this morning the opportunity to share more specific concerns with the development.
Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle, Indiana. I also am a member of OSA, who can be identified by our green bandanas. My main interest in what is going on out in the New Carlisle area is jobs. I'm a lifelong union employee. My father was a steel worker. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I have been a union member my entire life. I was a letter carrier, retired from Mishawaka in 2016, and I still am involved with the AFL-CIO and the building trades in St. Joseph County. I understand my friends with the building trades may not be real happy with me when I ask them to travel real carefully when you're talking about taking a job at your union scale wage to construct something out there in the IEC. Because I have seen firsthand in the Midwest here, in Illinois in particular, what happens after those union scale jobs are done. The built facilities are constructed, off go the union people, in come the temporary 90-day people. No guarantee of employment, no living wage job, can't support a community. The idea is to bring in workers who are going to build homes, be a part of the community. I don't see where anybody, New Carlisle's getting about my age. I don't see a lot of people in New Carlisle who are going to work anywhere in that IEC. I'm seeing a lot of people who are going to come in from other areas of the county. We talked about South Shore, possible station earlier. I see them coming in from east and west, getting off there, getting on, and going home at the end of the night, not investing any money in the community. I see infrastructure damage. I think we need to proceed real carefully. We need to be sure that once these facilities are constructed, and they need to be, fit into our community, they need to be smart growth, the type of growth that everyone can support. And we're not against growth. We want growth that blends well. But what we want to be sure is that we can sit down and talk about a job within any facility there that has a living wage, contractually negotiated, community supporting, not temporary job. And again, jobs is my main concern over that we're going to be stuck with what I witnessed when I traveled to Illinois last week with a community that is just devastated by what has gone on in the logistics end of that area. Again, thank you for listening to me, and thank everybody for being here.
I'm from Burkus, 58995 Mayflower Road. I'm a farmer. I'm owner operator of the Vlad Farms. And I've got a couple of questions I'd like to just get answered. Number one, how many acres is this project going to encompass?
I'll advise the RDC members that you do not need to comment back. This is not an opportunity for rhetorical questions to be asked and answered to the commission. However, if you choose to do so, that's your own personal decision.
So how many acres are we looking at total? Anybody?
So our planning area is, well, let's start small. So our core development area is 10,000 acres, 6 to 10,000 acres. Our planning area is 22,000 acres. Our development core area, or the study area, is 120 area, 120,000 acres, I believe. Yeah, all the way from Mayflower to the west into LaPorte County, north into Michigan, and south.
So currently, I mean, the efforts that are ongoing, they are planning feasibility study type efforts. There isn't a specific project that we are currently constructing that has acquired an X amount of land and change. So I mean, terminology can be interesting depending on how you're defining it, but our planning efforts are very comprehensive to try to look at all types of uses and impacts and those types of things.
My understanding is that this is all prime farmland. Is that correct? It's farmland, correct?
It is.
And is it actively being farmed right now?
It is.
So it's a business.
Yes.
Okay, so we want to take that business and replace it with a different business. What types of industry are we talking about for that area? What are the names of the companies so interested?
So we're looking at all sorts of industries and trying to understand what are the best fits for that.
Okay. Well, and that said, you mentioned you have a working group for the New Carlisle. Okay, who's in that? Are any of the residents?
Yeah, the steering committee is made up of 70-some participants.
From New Carlisle?
A variety of places. Yes.
Most of New Carlisle, though? Majority of?
No, not necessarily, but there are
Okay.
New Carlisle participants.
I've got another question. Who decides on the appraisers? People who don't want their property sold, but you want to appraise it. Who decides on the appraisers?
We haven't actually run into a situation where we've appraised anything that didn't want to be appraised.
But when you go, I mean, you pick it or does the property owner pick it? Because I'd like to understand that. How does the numbers come into play for an appraisal? Whose numbers are you going to use for this? Are you going to use the people that own the ground, or are you going to bring someone in and
I think we've exceeded the scope of, I will happily stay after the meeting and explain all those issues to you, how the property acquisition process.
Well, are you interested in hearing about this too, folks? I mean, I think we're all on the same page, or we'd like to hear about it.
That's fine, I'd be happy to meet after the meeting and talk to you.
You can't talk about it during the meeting? Why have a meeting?
This opportunity
This
is
is
again
public
to
comment.
allow
It's
public
for you
comments.
to,
That's
for
for
them
them.
to receive
Yeah,
information
okay,
from
so
you, and I know
The
Mr.
last
Sally will
part of
be
this is
happy to
real
meet.
simple. This is some of the richest farmland in the country. And you've got a lot of people in New Carlisle, and I don't live out there, but I'm a farmer, and we were supporting each other. This is the richest farmland in the country, and you want to turn that into smokestacks? Is that not a yes or not a no?
It's a question you've asked. Nobody.
No, I'm asking him, not you.
It's a rhetorical question. You're trying to zing people. I understand what
Yeah,
you're
I am,
saying.
because this is our livelihood.
I understand, but
And these people live out there, and we're farmers. We farm that land.
then make your
And
statement.
I'm going to tell you the last thing then. I'll make my last statement, real simple. okay? Our property was impacted by the casino development. Now, I know this isn't, the county had nothing to do with that, that's a city issue. But you can't believe what I'm dealing with 30 acres. I can't farm anymore because of the water problem out there. What's gonna happen if this is developed and these people have the same kind of problems? Is there a plan for that? So all I'm gonna say is with this development, 22,000 acres is encompassed in this, and some of the richest farmland in the country. I'd say it's a problem, folks. I'm sure we can find better areas to develop other than some of the richest farmland around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judith Robuski, 515 Chatham Street in Southfield. To continue along the vein of farmland in St. Joe County, this soil is rated by the state of Indiana to be prime fertile soil. This means it is the type of soil that is most adaptable to grow on without fertilizer. The 2002 study that was done and paid for by county tax dollars did a study of this area and recognized the value of this soil and land and said its best use is agriculture. So I hope that all these studies are referring back to that, and not much has changed. Its best use is agriculture, it was found, and that it should be preserved as such. The farmers who live and farm in that area, including where many small steps are being taken to change that land by zoning changes, easements being created, moving a ditch, and preparing the site for future mega industrial project. I just, as a taxpayer, I think to kind of see all this money going for all these studies when a study's already been done. These changes are costly to us taxpayers. Farmers take stewardship of the ground to their heart and soul. They do take care to not abuse it, for example, with using too much fertilizer or doing too much tilling or using too many pesticides. Doing harm to the soil they farm harms them as well, as it will not be able to grow on it and ruin its fertility. It's just not in their heart and souls to do that also. This land has economic value. Farmers do pay taxes. And how many bushels of corn has been produced over the years on this land? Please note that corn is a very greedy plant. It requires a high amount of fertility and lots of water, and yet this land still grows bushels and bushels of corn. We need and want farmland preserved. Thank you for your time to share.
My name is Bob Humbarger. I live on a small farm at 29987 Third Road in Allen Township, and it is plan for phase 3. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to this morning. I appreciate your indulgence. But, first of all, I'd like for you to know that even though I live in the area and all this stuff affects me, I'm not really against economic development. I'm not even against the reasonable expansion of the INTech area development, provided that it be done in an incremental way with willing land sellers with a truly beneficial projects that provide undisputable positive attributes. Most of all, they're not damaging to our environment. Let us face it, the redevelopment commission doesn't have a very good track record doing that. Case in point is the car shredder project, and it's as the worst case example out there. But I don't really want to elaborate on all that just now. Instead, I want to talk about the taxes. All of you more about that than I do, but I'm being opposed to large pie in the sky type schemes. The type of building they will come is too risky when the county is so much not able to support life projects because of TIF area. If all that land and development area, 22,000 acres, is put into TIF area, what will that do to our county tax base? That none of that money goes into the schools, libraries, and more currently required territory. As property reaches the tax caps, increase for these special need projects, such as the Pendleton Bridge Fund and fire territory and computer software programs that we've talked about, which I don't understand at all, but that's where people more knowledgeable decide. They all end up in resulting in actual reduction to the budgets for schools, libraries, and other county needs. In other words, we are progressively creating a poorer community. It's my understanding that there is currently about $11 million in the economic TIF area accounts. I don't know if that's accurate, but there's a lot of money generated by the TIF area, yet not one dime goes to support the schools and the library and the fire territory. At the last fire territory meeting that I went to, I was told that 10 to 15% of the current fire department runs are to the current INTech area economic development area. Yes, the TIF area is purchasing a new fire engine, but the rest of us and the township area have to pay the increased taxes to send those fire responses to the TIF area and provide service to perpetually multi-million-dollar corporations. And that's not fair. That's not fair at all. It's my understanding that the proposed economic development plan area is 22,000 acres. That's 7.5% of the county's land mass. That's nearly double the TIF areas that we have now in all of St. Louis County. And that doesn't even include tax abatement problems. Here's my plan. Develop great schools, parks, train workforce, and then advertise that this area doesn't even offer TIF funds. It offers quality of life. We can't afford this corporate welfare anymore, and please don't make this situation worse by increasing Indiana Enterprise Center. Thank you.
I'm just wondering on under economic development area number 5, requesting commission service amendment. I just am wondering if I could get some clarification there. You said you're asking for approval to add property to the development area footprint. I realize you're just beginning this process, but could you just kind of give me some clarity that the development area footprint, is that the core area you're referring to, or and is there a map in here that refers to that where I can look at it?
Really what the request was authorization to begin that process to identify what those would be and what that area would be. So it'd be the starting stages to be developing a map for consideration and that type of thing. We don't have the information hasn't yet. It was just the authorization so they could actually start that discovery.
But this is an expansion of the project, of the original
Potential
to add to the acreage of what the item.
Depending on what the request amendment ends up being, yes, it is potential to do so.
So we're looking at making it larger already?
Depending on what the project, if there's a future project that's coming down that may be necessary to do so, then we would need to if it's in the TIF area, but that doesn't mean it's automatically in the TIF area. There's a process to follow for that consideration.
So the maximum area, the study area, is the 120,000 planning areas.
That's a regional
Right.
study
The
area.
planning areas to claim 2,000 acres. So I imagine we're looking at expanding the port and
I don't have that information as far as that request hasn't been made on what those amendments actually do. Yes, sir.
Vic Myers, I live at 336 West of Bar Street here in South Bend. I'm relatively new to educate myself on this project. One of my main concerns is transparency and also the appearance that this project is pretty much done deal. There's no going back. Taking these steps, I'm wondering at what point, if ever, there will be a time of decision to evaluate whether this is still environmentally sound, financially sound, in a variety of ways. Where will we make the final decision, given the impact that it raises? I would request an immediate meeting open to the public, announced well in advance to discuss the project, to review its scope and impact, and also to consider abstaining from purchasing land and making legally binding commitments before gaining the support of the broader community. And I encourage you, if you have this ready to a certain extent, to make reports readily available for review and comment, and also to consider alternative development strategies closer to South Bend, not at the expense of that. And could this group, this commission, speak to how many jobs are anticipated of these jobs? Permanent, what's the quality of the jobs? Are they temporary? Are they low scale wages? How much will they contribute to the tax base? What's the impact on property taxes for someone like the residential?
Andy Castellani, 52860 Juniper Road, South Bend, Indiana. I thank the redevelopment commission for your action today in support of picking up the additional cost of the fire truck in New Carlisle. Once again, I think it's a great example of the redevelopment commission and the county partnering and doing things for New Carlisle area and not to Carlisle areas as some conversation taking place. And also, like your proactive role in seeing what fits in that redevelopment area, because there is no project that's being discussed. We're not looking at bringing one entity in to do anything. We're trying to make sure in the event that someone does come to this area, we're prepared to address whatever needs they may or may not have, so we can, in fact, make those educated guesses and to make sure that we're prepared in case development comes. If the development is not what it needs to be, then it will not be allowed to go, because it's a very long, drawn-out process. It goes before the redevelopment commission, it goes before area planning, it goes before the board of zoning appeals. It certainly will go before the county council and possibly the board of commissioners. So this is at the extreme early stage of any potential projects, but there are no projects that are being looked at. There is no large, grand scheme and grand plan. We're making sure that we are prepared to address things properly if and when the time comes. So thank you for your work today.
Kathy Van Wert, 413 South Builder Street in New Carlisle. I would encourage you all to at least read the article on Elwood, Illinois. Population 2,200 has become a vital hub of America's consumer economy, and it's hell. The rural town south of Chicago is now a crucial stop for Amazon, Walmart, IKEA, Home Depot, and other giant retailers. Developers had promised growth and good jobs. So why is everyone so miserable? This is by Alexander Salmon for the New Republic. Visit the town. Our land out there is prime farmland. There are second and third generation farmers. That's their livelihood there. Farmers are ground zero for our food. The farmers, they jobs are created from the farmer. It spreads far and wide. I don't care if you're the seed company, they're providing jobs for it, delivery trucks, the co-ops, it ends up the producers of your food, to the grocery store. There's people, there's their jobs. It all comes down to the farmer. The land is valuable out there, it's beautiful out there, and we need to preserve it. Oh, I want to say, and the FFA has been kids at the high school. The FFA, I believe, was defunct for a while.
Right.
They have brought it back. These are farmer kids out there. Future Farmers of America, local FFA. And they have brought it back to our schools. They are concerned too.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, my name's Garrett Vlad. I live at 1428 Marigold Way, South Bend, Indiana. I grew up in North Liberty, and both sides of my family are farmers, both the Vlad farms here in South Bend and the Tuholsky farms, which is just south of the IEC area. And I'm really here today because of my family. I know that both sides of my family would want me here today to protect the land that allowed my family to live here in this area and to put food on the table and allow me to have life. And I'm here today to talk about the public transparency and accountability that is so lacking in this process. And I want to just point out, it's unfortunate that Commissioner Castelli just left the room, but part of our frustration in this is what we just saw. Commissioner Castelli just said that there are no companies knocking on our door wanting land. Yet, on other days, we'll hear from Commissioner Castelli, we'll hear from Bill Shalio, that there are a list of companies that have already knocked on our door, and the reason that we're developing this area is that we don't have the land available for them. Where is the answer? And we have no answer. What is the answer to this? Are there companies knocking on our door wanting this area? Land so big that we have to move a ditch and provide some of the best farmland, not only in this country, the best farmland in the world for them? That's my question right now. Are there companies that have knocked on our door wanting thousands of acres of the best farmland in the world to build on? And see, we still have no answer. The problem here is that in a democracy, the foundation of a democracy is not just an election won every 2 or 4 years. It is active public input. It is access to public meetings. It's public records. It's referendum. It's ballot initiatives. It's ways for the public to engage in processes. And when a project of this scale, and it's not just the 22,000 acres, if we look at where that is and where South Bend is, we can imagine, it's not hard to imagine, an entire suburbanization and industrialization of hundreds of thousands of acres of that part of our county. And if we look at the future of where we're heading, with migration, with climate change, with a lot of pressures, we can imagine this area being very interesting for people to move in the next 50, 100 years. Meanwhile, we're ruining some of the best farmland in the world. When I moved back here just last year and found out that this project was happening, I was really concerned because of the scale and scope of the project. And so I started with others here to try to find information. And it's interesting that after this group formed and started poking around, and after we started asking questions, it was only then that we found months and months, if not years, of agendas and documents that had already happened about planning for this project. Why did it take a group of people suddenly finding out about a project the scale of which is the size of the city of South Bend? Why did it take us, our initiative, to make public records accessible on the internet? And even more, a perfect example of how this is still a problem is the Nespadani ditch. We found out through the South Bend Tribune and through other sources that this ditch was planning on being moved to make space for the scale of the project. And we know that that decision would be made at the Drainage Board meeting. The Drainage Board meeting is at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, which, if it isn't obvious, is not an accessible meeting time for people. And that's more of a reason why big decisions like this should not be made in the normal operating procedures of the county that might happen during the day like this when normal working people can't make it. And farmers eventually will not be able to make it in the summer when they're planting their crops. convenient that this is all happening right now in the winter. That meeting, I looked online, there was no agenda beforehand. The public has no way of knowing if or when a vote on that would happen, other than having people like Deb Durrell and Chris Cobb and Brent Burkus and people in this room coming to these meetings on their own hard work, on their own time, and following the process. The public has no awareness. So I ask you, when will there be a public comment or a public meeting about this project? With people from South Bend, people from the county, people from New Carlisle, farmers, teachers, taxpayers. When will that happen? When is the next plan for a public comment on this project? Let the silence speak for itself.
Fortunately, I had a meeting at 9 o'clock tonight. I think this is important enough for me to sit through and try to be as good a listener as I can on both sides of the issue. Last week I was driving through the state of Indiana, coming north, and picking up different radio stations in different municipalities as I was coming north. And one of them that got my attention, that Indiana has lost 500,000 acres of farmland over a period of time, which I can't tell you what that period of time is, because I lost the communications. I think it was coming out of Columbus or someplace north, and I'm thinking to myself, was that sold? Was it given away? Was it negotiated? I don't know the answer to that, but 500,000 acres of land is an incredible amount of land to lose in farming. I'm a city boy. I'm an urban guy. I live in an apartment most of my life. I've been here for 40 years, and I've really grown to appreciate and love the farming. We are, in fact, an agricultural nation. And if we're losing 500,000 acres of land in every state in the United States, we're rapidly not going to become an agricultural nation. There are those that are happy to see this property be sold at a nice profit, whatever that may be. I mean, it's different things for different people. There are those that are opposed to it for many reasons. I would agree that we should have as much transparency as possible. I think if you ask those people from Mishawaka that sold all their property to University Mall, even they will say, yeah, I made a lot of money when I sold it. But there are those that say, yeah, but the traffic out there is terrible. We don't need all of that. I think the transparency and having a series of meetings, before we even go too much further, and one of the ones that Bill just mentioned, Jennifer just mentioned, there will be 4 public hearings. We can't tie people to ask them to come. To publicize as much as we can legally. The word of mouth has to happen as much as possible, because there are groups that would like to sell their land. I mean, and they called me over the weekend and said, hey, be careful. And I want to be careful. I want to weigh this as carefully as I possibly can. Agricultural land, as you know, any farmer knows that, is appraised at less than commercial property and industrial property and residential property. There's a very, I use the word attractive, that's almost a contradiction. There is a negative assessment on agricultural property is in fact assessed lower than any other piece of property in the state of Indiana. They recognize that. I recognize that. We recognize that. I hope you all recognize that. We put into, I'm not a great advocate of TIF areas for obvious reasons, but in fact, you may have a TIF area in and of itself just because it's agricultural land. I have to weigh that thought process. I'm not sure I can do that. But from my standpoint, I would like to see us have as much transparency as we possibly can. Thank you. You bet.
My name is Mona Costa. I live at 204 South Harrison, Carlisle. I'm just a grandma. That's all I'm here for.
They're great. Grandmas are
But
great.
could I have pressed, ask you? Okay. Well, this is what I woke up to this morning. In my desk. And I know it doesn't look like bad or anything, but I think you guys are the artists of this land, and you have a very, very important job. You're gonna paint this picture, and I'm gonna present something. If I there to help the artist take care of his land, their name's gonna be in this picture. And that's what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
So I hope that you can do it. And the other analogy I think of is like, I want to grow. I'm a body that needs to grow. But what am I feeding inside my body? Am I feeding good stuff? Am I just shoving? I had 2 cookies today, so I know how bad it is. I don't want to shove all this stuff down because I want to grow. I can put good stuff in there. So.
Well, I just told some friends this morning that I haven't had a piece of beef in 3 years. Now the beef farmer is probably mad at me.
I'm sorry.
So I said, well, no.
You guys
Anyway,
are
I'm
so
sorry.
important. You are so important. Just remember that picture for your grandchildren. And look at my picture. How do you think that? That's what I give you. Because I can give you money, but you're going to spend the money. I can give you anything. But I can't bring this back. If you please use that.
Thank you.
Use your heart, not just your head.
Any other public comment?
There's a lot of knowledge and talent in this room on all sides. And as you can see in here, we feel there are so many people concerned about this election, especially with the kind of people with the RDC Meeting. The lack of a public presentation or comprehensive discussion for the past 9 months in the light of continuous spending is further alarming by the tone of the steering committee summary of the public comment that were taken out of context as positions. This might be truly funny, if not just because the millions of dollars in life-changing decisions. We know of one large city to our west that knows when their aquifer will run dry, and they are looking to the Kingston River for their community. St. Joseph County is really increasingly one large community. Not only are we greatly concerned about the individual concerns, but how the magnified and compounded spending is brought together in close proximity and at a high level of activity. Complexity has a tendency to be siloed, and without the public, this economic engine is at risk of becoming a silo and a misuse of all the talent. While we may not all agree on the number one concern, the collective quality of life issues that we and needs to be addressed first and foremost by St. Joseph County through an Office of Sustainability to oversee economic development and the way it affects our lives comprehensively. We, the public, are a resource. What things could be accomplished if we were?
Any other public comment? Just a reminder again about the Title VI surveys. We would appreciate if you would participate. If you do so, you can just leave it on the table when you leave. And we have a motion to adjourn. Yeah, motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none. Thank you.
You guys have a chance.